Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can watch us on YouTube and Rumble while following us on Facebook, or find us on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for past episodes, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe or follow today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good day, everybody, wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Mekas. If this is your first time tuning in, please click like, subscribe, comment. Also, don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcast. Today, Past Lives and Karma. She's been reading since 1973, traveled coast to coast and into Canada as a full-time intuitive counselor and as an inspirational speaker and facilitator. Her certifications and affiliations include Certified Tarot Master and Certified Professional Tarot Reader, member of the American Tarot Association and the Tarot Guild, an ordained minister and of the Sanctuary of the Beloved. She is also a trained medium and past life specialist. Let's welcome back to the show, Corby Mitley. Welcome back, Corby.
Good to be here, Paul, but you did it last time too. It's Mitlied.
Mitlied.
Nobody
okay.
Gets it right. It's okay.
I apologize. Nobody gets my name right, but
There
I tell you, I just say, just call me Paul.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. How did you get interested in past lives?
Past lives is a natural for anybody who loves history, as I have done. And my sense was that there were messages there. I first got an inkling of past lives in the mid-1980s, connection with Philadelphia rock group. Could not understand because I'm not a groupie. But through doing some past life work and hearing some facts that I could not have known, what we found was a life in 18th century Scotland. Now, mind you, at that point, my history interests were with Wars of the Roses, Henry VIII, all of that. I knew nothing about 18th century Scotland. But the name that we got for the person I was interested in this life and who it was then, all of a sudden, over linguine and clam sauce, in a mainline restaurant in Philly, I heard the words Marcus Baron Gordon Huntley. And I'm thinking, what's with his two titles? So what do? You go to Debrett's Peerage, which is a massive tome about all of the peerages in England. And in 1752 was born Alexander, 12th Marquess of Huntley. And in 1783 or 4, he was made Baron Gordon of Huntley. When you don't know that, you couldn't have read it anywhere, boom. And as I read through his life, those were the same things I had picked up. The moral of the story was, this person wasn't mine in the 18th century, but I tried for them. They weren't mine this time. And in order to learn the karmic lesson, I had to totally let go of that. And as soon as I did, the interest in that person dropped. So that was a perfect example of karma's knocking on your door and you need to learn a lesson from a past life that's been brought into this one.
And I saw it on some program just the other day. It's about this. They kept talking about this boy that, when he was a child, he kept talking about saying that, he died in World War II, a fighter pilot, stuff like it. It became a really popular, still a very popular story. I finally saw the guy probably in his 30s now, 30s, 40s.
Mhm.
And first time I saw the guy and he was talking about it. Now, today he lost that clear memory, but he remembers the stuff he was talking about.
Mhm.
Do you encounter people with such a really, really vivid memory of their past life?
Yes. The example I use, which explains how I do past life retrieval, which is not regression, different thing. A woman came to me and said, I have no idea why I am so passionate about the Civil War, what happened. None of my family was ever in it. I live in the Midwest, nothing happened there. And so what I was able to pick up for her is I said, okay, I'm seeing a small whitewashed room with a low ceiling. So two tall gentlemen, one in civilian clothes, one in military. They're standing by a rickety iron bed, but they're bent over because they're too tall for the room. You are kneeling by the bed, looking at your clothing. It looks about 1861 or 2, dark gray, soutache around the peplum and the hem sleeves. In the bed is a wizened old black woman, and she's dying. And you're all grieving because you had gotten her out of a Mississippi plantation. She was almost to the end of the Underground Railroad, but she was going to die before she got to freedom. And I opened my eyes, and this woman is sobbing and has said, I have seen that exact dream, absolutely everything you've always said, for 20 years, and I never understood it.
Whoa.
So there you are.
I know the answer to this, but a lot of people are skeptical about past lives.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a convincing thing. It's a very convincing thing when, I mean, I definitely believe in it. And with it being linked in reincarnation and it being taught
Mm-hmm.
and taken out of many ancient texts just because.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to those that are skeptical about past lives and our reincarnation?
I look at them over my glasses like every bad teacher, and I go, you really think you're smart enough to get it done in one? No. And that's just it. The reason that we incarnate is to experience duality and bring back information to our souls, our higher selves. Because, and I use the white room example. If you're in a white room with white carpeting, white walls, white curtains, white furniture, a piano with only white keys, and you're dressed in white, you have no conception of what purple is. The Eskimos have 200 words for snow, but not one for palm tree. They don't have one. So there are certain things you can only learn on a linear time frame where there is duality, youth, age, male, female, rich, poor. And it's how you learn on those life challenge tracks that makes the difference. The work I did with Robert Schwartz on his books between, Life Between Life and Pre-Birth Planning, karma is really 5 things: contrast, unbalanced energy, healing service, and healing of beliefs. And the way I can explain that, I like to use Ryan White. You may all remember he was the kid that got AIDS from a blood transfusion in the late 80s when we knew nothing about AIDS. He was treated as a pariah, had to fight to go to school, but somehow he made friends with Elton John. Elton basically adopted the family, loved them, played at Ryan's funeral, and Ryan inspired him to get off the drugs, the alcohol, everything he was on. You want a clue, go see Rocket Man. And after that, he created the Elton John AIDS Foundation, which has raised over $500 million for AIDS research and care worldwide. Now, if you don't believe in reincarnation, well, that doesn't really matter. If you believe in karma is bad and good, dog bone or whack with a newspaper, it's, oh, Ryan White must have been a terrible person in the last life. Look what God did to him. When you understand life challenges the way Rob put them out, Ryan's soul said, short life, tough life. But look what I can create by going through that. So we say that he had a karma of service because of what happened based on his dealing with that difficulty here on earth, making the connections with Elton, who was so moved by his courage that miracles happened.
Yeah. And that's a really good example how someone's karma impacts the collective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it might seem unfortunate for one, but it ends up becoming a greater tool, a greater thing for the whole.
Yes, exactly so.
What does karma? Well, the link between karma and past lives.
Mm-hmm.
Give a little bit of an example, because we throw the word karma out so much; it's become a cliche. I mean, we use it so often.
Yes, we do.
Give a good. That was an example, for instance, but how is it that we can hone in on in this present life, hone in on and kind of like, I don't know, identify certain karmic traits and kind of learn from it and maybe gather more knowledge from
You
it?
look at your life challenges, okay? With me, this is a soul that comes in more often male than female, and my female lives are always my tough ones. So in this life, in order to learn to value being a female and understand their worth more than what they look like, I have been through 3 bouts of breast cancer, 2 divorces, rape, poverty, and abuse. Now, what this has done for me, besides taught me that I am so much more than the body, which before the surgery was literally Dolly Parton with a brunette wig, and now I'm a fat fire plug with permanent side effects. But I'm 70, so you gotta expect. What all of that also did is set me up to be the most compassionate, reverent, and intuitive counselor I can be, because I've been through so much, but like a cork, I've bobbed to the top, that nothing will weird me out. You can talk to me about anything. But at the same time, what I say to people, whether it's learning tarot, getting through cancer, everything, I tell people, I'm not special. You can do what I do. And so I pass on the courage and the resilience that way.
Yeah. Before we move on, where can people find you? I'll have your let me see, get your website scrolling up on there. But for those who are listening, where can people find you and what they can look forward to on your website?
Well, they actually can't avoid me. I'm all over the place. The website, CorbyMitline.com, you'll see I have 2 to 3 dozen different readings and consultations. If you want to find out, is she the real deal? There are reviews there. There are something like 150 different articles that you can learn from. If you want to find me right now, I'm on TikTok with the rest of people under the No Bullshit Psychic. And I do lives every week, but they alternate. Some weeks are free readings, but for instance, Thursday night, like tonight, it's going to be Cafe Corby. And what that is an hour where we all sit around with our coffee or tea or Red Bull, and we talk about psychic information. If you want to know, why can I do automatic writing but not use a pendulum? Or how do you start? Or I have this intuition, what does it mean? That's what that's for. Because by nature, I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
And so it's the best place to find out more about the metaphysical world. And I even field a few questions about me. And as long as I'm not going to regret seeing them in print somewhere in a month, I'll tell you.
Right on. Right on. Now you're an author of several books as well.
Yep. Words are my drug of choice. That is correct.
Heck yeah. And the last time you were on, we were going on the was it the yellow brick road?
Yes, which I am having to revise because we need to reprint. It has sold out. I'm thrilled. What that book is for those who are listening, it's not how to be a psychic. There are a million books out there like that. It's a book on how to find a good psychic, what we can do, what we can't do, what questions are useful, which ones aren't, when to know that you're dealing with a charlatan and leave. It is a book to keep you safe. And I frankly don't care if you never come to me. If that book helps you choose a good intuitive, well, all boats rise, and I did my job.
Yeah. The do's and don'ts, gives people the do's and don'ts on the pathway on seeking the right and decent intuitive.
Yes, you don't want to end up with anybody like Madame Rosa on Mrs. Maisel. No, you really don't.
And I'm sure there's an order. What book came out after this one?
After this one is the niche book. You've Got the Magic for Me as a Genie, because I was on the road 45 weekends a year, 45,000 miles on the car, doing psychic fairs and expos for 18 years. My nickname was the Travel Channel. But the universe kept saying, no, we want you home. And I kept saying, no, I love being a Diamond Hilton person. I walk in and they go, we're not worthy. So finally, my upstairs folks said, well, we'll handle it. And in July of 2019, I got a herniated disc and pinched nerve, which does make having triplets feel like a tea party. Well, they got me back in shape by November, but they said, we're really sorry, but your career's over. You're not going to be able to do the long drives. You cannot lift anything heavy anymore. It's done. So from November to about February, I rushed to totally reinvent my business and put it all online. What happened in March of 2020, but the advent of the years of Murder Hornet Bingo and Hold My Beer. If I had just been on circuit, my business would have tanked. It still does well now. And we may be facing the same thing with bird flu. But I work from home. So I can still reach anybody, and that means anybody worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah. The internet is amazing.
It is.
So much remote stuff. So much remote. So the clean out your closet.
Life closet.
Clean out, yeah.
Clean out your life closet is actually self-help. Clarity, adaptability, simplicity, and making friends with stress. But I wrote it because of everything that other self-help books have done to us. I remember the first paragraph of the first self-help book I ever bought when I was 13. Now, mind you, this is 1968, so the language is archaic, but Judy has a groovy wardrobe. Her makeup is fab, and her hair is far out. But nobody likes Judy because Judy's fat. So right there in one paragraph, hundreds of thousands of American teenage girls were told, you are worthless. Your brain doesn't matter. Your talent doesn't matter. If you're not skinny, nobody will pay attention to you. You're worthless.
Wow.
And even today, people are writing books that don't work. A very recent one said, well, you have to avoid all food with leptin, and you really do need to get up an hour or so early so you can do yoga. If you are a single mom in Milwaukee with 2 kids in school and a job, you are not going to do that. So the book sets you up to fail.
Yeah.
What my book does is it says, here's some of the dumb things I did. Here's maybe an example from one of my clients, and here's some ideas. But the back of each of these books, each chapter, you have the adventure pages, and they ask you questions that you have to answer from your own life. You can't just turn to page 82 and answer. For instance, there's a great chapter on how perfect destroys good. And the questions are, where do you beat yourself up most often? Why? Reimagine one of those times when the idea is good can triumph over perfect. What's it look like now? How would your life change if you stopped thinking perfection was the only correct response to a project or a situation? Notice that doesn't tell you what your answer should be. That tells you that you are your own best expert, and whatever answer you put, as long as it's truthful, is correct. So by the end of that book, you have your own personal manual.
Wow.
I write the books I would want to read. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. I like to cover this one. This is cool. You've got the magic. Who needs a genie?
That's right. Guys, I did it for 18 years. You should not have to reinvent the wheel. And that is specifically for people who do expos, psychic fairs, talks about how to choose them, how to do your booth, how to choose your front person, all of the business stuff. But there is also stuff in there called Corby Gets Candid that you're not going to get in a standard business book. And one of the stories was London, Ontario, almost 20 years ago now. There was a young man who sat with me and I read for him and he didn't like what I told him. He made that very clear.
Yeah.
Well, the next day I found an anonymous death threat on my table. But because I tell you in the book, always have a sign-in sheet, and unless they are, handicapped, they have to put it in their own handwriting. I was able to match up the handwriting on my sign-in sheet and the death threat, and we gave it to the Ontario police. Now, it wasn't nearly as common then as it is now. I mean, you tell somebody that you're out of butter and they'll give you a death threat in this country. But it just means more important than ever, make sure you protect yourself.
Yeah. Do you see a growing acceptance to past lives? You see more people kind of accepting this truth,
Yes.
so to speak?
Yes, I have. I have done past life galleries, the way some people do mediumship galleries. There was an event called First Night Saratoga here at Saratoga Springs, New York, and for 2 of those, I did galleries, and there were 3 shows, 75 people a show. So I dealt with 225 people in an evening. Now, not everybody got readings, mind you, but they loved the idea. And they would hand me a question, why am I so interested in whatever, or why am I afraid of? And one woman said, why do I have this thing about the home front in World War II and USO, that's right, not aliens. And I was able to quickly tune in to say, you were a mother who had several children, 4 sons. Each one went into a different branch of the service, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force. And you did a lot of work on the home front. When the son who was in the Air Force died, bombing Germany, you told your family, we will not wear black to mourn him because he died in the service of his country. And so because he was Air Force, you all wore sky blue. And that was your way of honoring him. And mind you, it was New Year's Eve. Everybody was coming in off the streets. They were all in their, puffy jackets. Well, she stands up, unzips her jacket, opens her jacket to show me a sky blue sweater underneath, and she says, this has always been my favorite color. Turns around, showed it to everybody there, and there was a collective gasp. So, yeah, people love that kind of thing. They really do. It's not the lottery numbers, but it's like right now, one of the things I'm involved in is what we call the 3 fates. And this is myself and my 2 good friends, Intuitive Tiffany Butler and Chris the Blue Rose Mystic. I do past lives. Tiffany does present channelings. Chris does future predictions. And we're all on stage at once, so people can choose a past, a present, a future. And one of the reasons we love doing it, besides we like working with each other, is it's so important for people to see that you can have 3 intuitives on stage working seamlessly together, and there's no ego and there's no bitchcraft.
Yeah.
There really isn't.
Huh. People use the term quite common instant karma.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a such thing? Or are
1
we
minute
misusing that? Or are we misusing
No,
that?
1 minute manager. There's an idea of it, but it doesn't really understand what karma is. Karma is not just one thing that happens. Karma is an overarching theme of your life. If you, for instance, had trouble with money in past lives, you might come in, but it would be 3 different things. It could be that you want to make money no matter what. It's a matter that maybe you're always going to worry if you'll ever have enough. Or maybe what you do is you decide that you're going to see how simply you can live so money doesn't hurt. See, all of these are possible responses to the karma of mishandling abundance or money in past lives.
Yeah. There was something that had come to my mind earlier, and I'm not sure how to ask this because
Bluntly is good.
yeah. There's people, the skeptical, the those who kind of like, I don't really believe in karma or this or that or the past lives. Similar to my earlier question,
Mm-hmm.
but there's usually a trigger that can be explained or thrown out there to where it triggers somebody into an epiphany, goes, whoa, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, now I understand what karma is and I can relate to it, because some people just can't relate to past lives or have that.
Usually that works when I do my past life retrieval
Mm,
and I pick up an interest that they have that they didn't tell me about, or the circumstances in the past life that I am reciting are like the circumstances in their life. And again, they haven't told me. Or it can be lightning strike. I mean, I grew up, my father had been stationed with 110th Station Army in Vienna in 46. So he had all the World War II stories, and I grew up afraid of Nazis and couldn't stand to hear German and all of that. In 1991, I was visiting the old Rhinebeck Aerodrome, which is a wonderful flying museum in the Hudson Valley area of New York. Now, mind you, I knew nothing about World War I at this point. Zip, nothing. So I watched the French planes and the British planes and the Italian planes and the American planes. But as soon as an Albatross D5, followed by a Fokker triplane, the Sleeping the Red Baron plane,
yeah.
it was like this soundless explosion in my head. And as I watched them, the two thoughts were, there's a story behind that, and I flew that one. Overnight, I needed to learn about the war. I needed to learn to speak German. I would recognize faces, and some I would hate, and some I would love, and some I'd be curious about. And about a week later, my boyfriend said, have you noticed things are a little different? So I was able to find the life I had as a German World War I pilot. And when people look at the picture of this person and me when I was about their age, they say, oh my God, was that your grandfather? You look so much like him. No. But the reason that I had to deal with that life was because of some prejudices and how he treated women that had to be rectified and rebalanced in this life. And I didn't realize that until I saw that past life and began to macrame the threads together.
Yeah. Wow. What are some of the common misconceptions that that people, some of your clients might have, or that you feel people have with karma and
You're not
reincarnation?
always famous, darling. Just because you can't wear a turtleneck, it doesn't mean you're Anne Boleyn. No, you weren't Cleopatra.
I hear a lot
No,
about
you
that.
weren't. Oh, I know.
Yeah,
I've
that.
only picked up 3 famous people for all the couple of thousand, has to be, past life sessions I've done in the past 20 years. One of them was Mercy Otis Warren, who was best friends with Abigail Adams and one of the female intellectuals during the time of the Revolutionary War. One of them was Nellie Bly, who was a very famous investigative reporter at the turn of the 19th, 20th centuries. And I had never seen my client before because this was over the phone. But she looked up a picture of Nellie Bly and sent me Nellie's picture and her picture, and they could have been twins.
Mm.
And there was someone I read for in Canada, loved photography, but it had to be black and white, didn't know why. And what I found out is she was Jacob Riis, R-I-I-S. And if that name is familiar, if you go back in the history books, there was one man who took black and white photographs of immigrants in the tenements of New York City, 1902, 1903, 1904. That was Jacob Riis.
Wow.
And her pictures were composed just like his. Which, since I'm not a photographer, I didn't realize until she showed me one too.
Yeah.
But more often, you're just somebody who had a life, and you're choosing, your higher self is choosing to see what you can do to learn from what happened there and rebalance it here. It's like the
Yeah.
Ryan White in service thing.
Wow. Something amazing just happened when you before you said twins.
Mm-hmm.
Something I was going to gather my next question. And before you even said the word, I wrote the word twins on the paper. And for that was going to be my keyword in order to go and segue into the next question. And interestingly, you pretty much answered the question. So we're on the same wavelength, definitely.
We come back often looking like the people that we were.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen, with Photoshop nowadays, I can't. I'm seeing stuff on social media, of celebrities now, and then hey, look at this person in the 1700s and 1800s, looks very identical like twins. Is that? But
it's not
common?
Always. Yeah. The looks like someone else. Yeah, there are only so many ways you can configure a human face, but does that guarantee that they were this person? No, it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
is it common to, like, when it birthmarks, certain physical ailments? I think the birthmark has been a
birthmark, maybe. Physical ailments, very common. Going back to my own story, I used to get odd pains running down the left side of my chest. No idea why, no real feel for it. But when I did a past life regression, which is different than what I do, and finally saw the life I had in World War I and where I was shot down, the bullets went here. Since that regression, I've never had those pains again. So, yeah.
Wow. Corby, I appreciate your time today. Thank you. Before we wrap up the show, what would you like to offer as a takeaway, words of wisdom for our audience today?
Karma is not carrot and stick. Karma is a useful lesson. So don't do the bad karma, good karma thing anymore, guys. You should know better. Psychic work is useful. Don't be afraid of it. But as I tell anybody who comes to me, I'm not special. You can do what I do. If something in metaphysics intrigues you, go explore it. But do your boot camp work first. Learn how to ground, center, and shield. Because you don't want to be messing with a Ouija board or something, and you don't know how to do that, because that's like throwing open your door in a strange neighborhood and yelling free beer.
Yeah,
they've heard you, and they're coming, and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah,
that's what I would tell you. Come play in our playground, but make sure you know the rules.
Yeah, and don't open up the door unless you're ready. Unless you're ready to keep going.
Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah, baby. I mean, please, a whole nother show could be
Yeah.
on what not to do. Like, I will leave with a quick story. I had to deal with two gibbering, hysterical teenagers who played with a Ouija board, didn't do any protection, said, "Who's there?" And what was spelled with the planchette backwards very fast was, "I have an axe and I'm here to kill you." Trust me, it was not their Uncle Danny who's what they were looking for.
Whoa.
No mess.
Yeah. Mm. You doing any traveling? Any upcoming special events?
Well, I'm doing stuff in the Capital District. At 70, I don't really travel anymore. But if people are interested in our Three Fates galleries, we do them on Zoom. And you can always find out about that. Um, Go to Facebook and look for the Three Fates. And there we are.
Yeah. Wow. You look fabulous for 70.
Two magic words, darling. No children. Take 10 years off your looks.
Ditto. Ditto.
There you go.
I'm 0. Wow. Corby, blessings, my friend. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time.
Was a pleasure, Paul.
And anything that new comes down the pike, a new book, let me know, and get you back on the show, and we'll talk about it.
I will do that.
Awesome. Cool. So thank you, everybody, for watching The Seance. And until next time, we will see you then.